Have you ever looked out at the ocean and felt like something was looking back? There's something about open water, the silence, the distance, the fact that even in our world of satellites and sonar, some stories still sink beneath the waves without ever being heard. But every now and then, one drifts back to the surface. This is one of those stories. In December of 1872, a merchant ship named the Mary Celeste was spotted drifting aimlessly in the North Atlantic. Sails partially set, no visible damage, and no one at the helm. When the boarding party arrived, what they found was deeply unsettling. The ship was completely intact, cargo undisturbed, personal belongings still in place, a pipe left on the table, a sewing machine mid-repair, food still sitting in the galley. Even the ship's logbook remained, entries calm and routine, up until just days before. But the crew, gone, not a trace. No signs of struggle, no distress signals, no lifeboats, no explanation. It was as if everyone had simply vanished, erased by some unseen hand, leaving behind nothing but a perfectly good ship sailing quietly into nowhere. And to this day, no one knows why. There have been theories, storms, mutiny, poison, even sea monsters and portals to another world, but none of them, not one, can fully explain what happened to the 10 souls aboard the Mary Celeste. So tonight, we're going to trace their final voyage, step by step, clue by clue, because somewhere in the silence they left behind, there might still be something waiting to be understood. If stories like this speak to you, if you find yourself drawn to questions that have no easy answers, then I invite you to stay with me, like this video, subscribe if you haven't, and drop a comment at the end. I'd love to hear what you think really happened out there, because this isn't just a ghost story, it's a riddle written on salt and wind, and it starts with a ship drifting alone on an empty sea. The year was 1872. A Canadian brigantine named Dei Gratia was sailing westward through the North Atlantic, just a few hundred miles off the coast of the Azores. It was calm, clear, the kind of day when the sea feels almost too still. Then, just over the horizon, another ship appeared. It was moving erratically, not fast, not steady, like something was wrong. Through their spyglass, the crew saw the name painted across the bow, Mary Celeste. She was supposed to be en route from New York to Genoa, but something was off. Her sails were set, but sloppily. Her course didn't make sense, and she wasn't answering signals. Captain David Morehouse of the Dei Gratia had actually known the Mary Celeste's captain, Benjamin Briggs. They'd shared meals just days before departure, so when the Mary Celeste didn't respond, he knew something was wrong. He sent a small boarding party, a few trusted sailors, to investigate. What they found was something none of them could explain. The Mary Celeste was completely deserted. No captain, no crew, no signs of violence, no broken equipment, no waterlogged cargo. The ship's single lifeboat was missing, but everything else remained. From the crew's boots tucked under bunks to untouched barrels of industrial alcohol stored below deck. In the galley, food still sat on the stove, half-eaten meals, plates arranged neatly, like someone had planned to return. They checked the logbook. The last entry was dated November 25th, 8 days earlier, a simple update about their location near the Azores. Nothing alarming, no mention of storms, sickness, or anything unusual. But here's where it gets stranger. The ship was seaworthy, not damaged, no signs of leaks, enough provisions for months at sea, and yet no one remained on board. It was as if 10 people had just stepped off into thin air. No shouts, no struggle, no goodbye. One of the sailors from the Dei Gratia would later say that the silence on the Mary Celeste wasn't just empty. It was wrong. It felt like walking into a room where something terrible had just happened, and whatever caused it was still watching. Eventually, the crew of the Dei Gratia sailed the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar, a difficult, uneasy journey with a ghost ship in tow. They hoped for answers, some official explanation, but what they got was the beginning of one of the most enduring maritime mysteries in history. Because once word got out, the world couldn't stop asking, why would a skilled captain abandon a perfectly good ship in calm waters with no threat in sight? No one could explain it then. No one can explain it now. After the Mary Celeste was brought to Gibraltar, an official inquiry began. Everyone wanted answers. The ship was examined. The cargo was mostly intact. 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol, still sealed and accounted for, except for 9. 9 barrels had leaked. That was one of the first leads, and it gave rise to the fume theory. Some believed those fumes may have built up below deck, creating fear of a potential explosion. Captain Briggs, fearing for his wife, his young daughter, and the crew, might have ordered everyone into the lifeboat, tethered by a long rope, to ride alongside the ship until the gases cleared. But perhaps the rope snapped. A sudden gust of wind separated them, and the Mary Celeste kept drifting, while they were left alone on the vast, indifferent sea. It's plausible, logical, but critics point out there was no sign of panic, no rush, no frantic log entries, just quiet. Then there's the piracy theory. Maybe the crew was attacked. Maybe someone stole the cargo, but left most of it behind. The problem? There were no signs of struggle, no blood, no damage. And why would pirates leave the valuables? Some suggested mutiny, that the crew turned on Captain Briggs. But again, no evidence. Every seaman's belongings were still on board, neatly placed. Briggs' cabin was untouched, and his character, by all accounts, disciplined, respected. Not the kind of captain who loses control of his men. Others turn to nature, rogue waves, waterspouts, seaquakes. The idea that a sudden freak event, something violent and fast, might have forced an evacuation. But again, there was no structural damage. The ship wasn't listing. It sailed just fine to Gibraltar. Then came the stranger ideas that the Mary Celeste encountered something unnatural, something that didn't leave marks, only absence. One theory involved sea monsters, another, alien abduction. Far-fetched, yes, but when logic fails, the mind wanders. There's even a theory that Captain Briggs deliberately faked the disappearance to claim insurance or escape something. But it falls apart under scrutiny. Briggs left behind no evidence of conspiracy, and he never turned up again. Neither did any of the crew. Not his wife, not his 2-year-old daughter, not a single soul. They vanished completely. So the world was left with possibilities, none of them satisfying, none of them whole, like trying to put together a puzzle with the key piece deliberately removed. And maybe that's why this mystery lingers, because the more we try to explain it, the more it resists. A ship left behind, a crew erased, and not even the sea is talking. In the decades since Mary Celeste was found, technology has transformed the way we explore mysteries. Today, we can scan the ocean floor, simulate weather patterns from centuries ago, and cross-reference thousands of logs and shipping records in seconds. So naturally, researchers, historians, and maritime experts have all tried to revisit the Mary Celeste. What they found only deepened the mystery. For instance, those 9 barrels that leaked? Modern analysis shows they were made of red oak, which is more porous than white oak and more likely to leak alcohol vapors under heat. Combine that with the ship's tightly sealed lower hold, and yes, the fume theory gained some traction. One experiment even recreated the exact conditions: alcohol fumes, heat, darkness. In a test chamber, the mixture ignited. A flash fire. No soot, no burn marks, just a brief, invisible explosion. It could explain the panic, the orderly abandonment, the lifeboat escape. But there's still a problem. Why was the lifeboat missing? No trace was ever found. And why didn't anyone make it to nearby land? Or send another signal? Maritime GPS simulations have also been run, reconstructing the likely drift patterns of the Mary Celeste. Some point to strong westerly winds in that region, suggesting that if the crew was tethered by rope, a sudden gust might have separated them too fast to react. But others disagree. They say the ship would have been too slow to pull away so quickly, unless the rope had already frayed. There are also fresh analyses of Captain Briggs' logbook. Some researchers now think he may have misread his barometer, believing a storm was coming when the skies were calm. It could have added to the urgency, especially with his family on board. But again, we're speculating, filling in gaps with probability, not certainty. A few documentaries, including one by National Geographic, have tried to track down descendants of the crew, looking for diaries, family stories, lost letters. They found nothing. No final message, no farewell, just silence. It's as if the Mary Celeste story doesn't want to be solved. It hides in the cracks between science and fear, between logic and legend. And that's what makes it so powerful, because even now, with all our satellites, data models, and AI-driven analysis, we still don't know. We are closer than ever, and yet still adrift. There are mysteries that technology can crack, and then there are the ones that live outside its reach. Mary Celeste feels like one of those. Some stories refuse to end. They don't fade with time. They don't quiet down with explanation. They linger, not because they're unsolved, but because they're unfinishable. The Mary Celeste is one of those stories. We've traced the routes, we've studied the winds, we've simulated the weather, and interviewed every scrap of history we could find. But we're still here, staring at an empty deck with no one left to tell us what happened. Maybe that's what truly chills us, not just the disappearance, but the lack of any human fingerprint afterward. No lifeboat, no bodies, no clue. Only the ship itself, sailing perfectly, silently, as if nothing had happened at all, like a stage left behind after a play, but without a script, without actors, without applause. And in that silence, we're left to imagine. Some believe the answer lies beneath the waves, a truth swallowed by time and tide. Others think the answer isn't in the sea at all, but in us. In our need for stories to make sense, in our discomfort with chaos, in our fear of what cannot be seen or touched. Because in the end, the Mary Celeste might not be about what happened. It might be about how little we're meant to know. We build tools to measure the stars, but still get lost at sea. We chase answers across oceans and find only deeper currents. And maybe, just maybe, there are places in the world where stories don't need endings, where mystery is the point. Somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic, in December of 1872, something happened. It was quiet, it was sudden, and it left no trace. And now, it lives in the space between fact and fear, between knowledge and wonder. A ghost ship still drifting, not through water, but through memory. And as long as we remember it, as long as we ask the question, what happened to the Mary Celeste? Then maybe it never really vanished. Maybe the crew never really disappeared. Maybe they became part of the story. And maybe, in some way, so have we. Tell me what you believe. Was it fear? Was it fate? Or something far beyond our understanding? And if this story has stayed with you, like it has with me, then subscribe, like, and share your thoughts below, because the ocean still keeps secrets, and on this channel, we'll keep listening for them, together.